Well, of course, with a disputed election result like we do now, it's going to be interesting to see whether the Citizens Coalition for Change actually goes to the courts in challenging the result of this election, Telegile.
And if they do they then get what the relief that they're seeking? Because the last election, there was a similar issue where the election results or the integrity of the process was questioned. There was a run to the country's courts. That failed. Someone today, in fact, online was making the example, drawing a parallel between Chamisa's journey and that of the late former opposition leader from the MDC, Morgan Tsvangirai, who, for the better part of 2 decades, had complained about similar issues. And until his time of death, there were still the same complaints, but no improvement in the situation. But you also wonder, Kathy, about the people of Zimbabwe who are always hopeful that each election will bring something new, perhaps an improvement. How do they feel when they see basically the same script play out?
Absolutely. Well, let's not speculate about what it is that the opposition will do in this instance. Let's bring onto air now the coalition, the Citizens Coalition for Change leader, Nelson Chamisa. He joins us on the line. Mr. Chamisa, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. So you've had strong words describing this election, but effectively you don't see it as being credible, particularly the result. What does this mean for your next steps?
Well, it's not just about characterization or description of what has happened. What has happened is factual, it's truthful, it is what has been seen and observed by the international observers, including our regional observers and the continental observers, the AU, COMESA, and of course international ones, Commonwealth, the Qatar Center. They all have testified that what they've seen in Zimbabwe is something they have not seen anywhere else. The kind of shenanigans, the kind of total chaos, ballot papers being distributed at night, and certain places being deprived of ballot papers, certain vigilante groups being used to commandeer and command people into voting, and threatening people that if you don't vote ZANU-PF, you are signing a death warrant. All those things have been noted. So it's not just what we are saying, it's what is obtained and what obtained on the ground. The election is a sham. The election is a charade.
Historically, when we talk about the Zimbabwean courts, particularly where they disputed elections, of course, they've tended to side with the governing party. Do you believe that, in particular, the report that has been issued by the Southern African region and the election observers there, that might give you a level of impetus in terms of strengthening any argument you may make before the courts around the legitimacy of this election?
This is not even about what a just or unjust court will say. It is about what the reality is on the ground. There's no one who would come and say the election in Zimbabwe was an election. It was a coercion. It was intimidation, not an election. It was some kind of an imposition of ZANU-PF on tactics of manipulation, inflation of figures, suppression of voters. And in some cases, we have also seen cases of outright intimidation of people. Like I told you, people being frog marched onto the polling stations, and there were certain desks being set up at each and every polling station in the rural areas. Out of the 36,000 villages, people would be asked to go to the polling station in the rural areas there and indicate that they are going to vote for ZANU-PF, and if they don't vote for ZANU-PF, they will be taken down in terms of the books that they were there. So we are clear that we have facts on the ground that militate against and negate the validity and legitimacy of the election. But we have won this election, even if it is an unfair one, an unfair one, because we are not conducting the election. We're not administering it. It was BEC and ZANU-PF, but we still defeated them. And we are saying, apart from winning that election, they have announced an inaccurate result. And we told them that's why our agents did not sign for this election, and our chief election agent did not even validate the result, because the queries were not answered. They were in a rush. they just wanted to announce Mr. Mnangagwa as the leader. But now we've said your announcement of Mr. Mnangagwa as the leader does not take away the fact that he is not the elected leader of Zimbabwe. We know what the people voted for. They voted for change. They voted for freedom. They voted for peace. They voted for prosperity.
So does that mean you're going to be challenging this result in the courts?
Well, look, the court is just one of the forums. We have many forums to challenge the results. The results will be challenged politically. It will be challenged constitutionally. It will be challenged even diplomatically. We'll use all avenues available to challenge the legitimacy of the person who has been falsely and erroneously declared as the leader.
So then what would you like to see happen next, Mr. Chamisa?
The first thing that should happen is that let the appropriate result be declared. We want this election fair and square. We want overwhelmingly, we have statistics, we have V11s, which are the source documents, to indicate that we did very well and we are ahead of Mr. Mnangagwa. Mr. Mnangagwa has been using his people to try and play around figures. As we speak, our polling agents are being called in to alter certain V11s and to sign for new forms, so they want to align with the figure that they announced. And that tells you how criminal and how illegal this whole thing is. What we want to see is a proper result being announced, declared.
But that's unlikely. It's unlikely not to happen on its own, because as things stand, the ZANU-PF believe that this election is credible, and Emerson Mnangagwa earlier on in the program very much welcoming the election results. So as things stand, there's nothing that suggests that there's any review of the current election result or even that it will be changed.
And what we expect from Mr. Mnangagwa, who is the beneficiary and of course the perpetrator of the injustice, it's very clear that he would welcome the process of injustice. But the truth of the matter is that even if he doesn't accept, we will have to put pressure, political pressure, diplomatic pressure, legal pressure to make sure that the people of Zimbabwe and their vote does count. There has to be a proper government, a legitimate government.
How do you foresee, sorry to come in there, Mr. Chamisa, how do you foresee that issue of political pressure playing out? And I look here specifically at, the SADC region, because this is where Zimbabwe is located.
Well, of course, SADC had to help us. They had an observer mission. They saw the election. They saw what happened. They passed the preliminary report and the verdict. And the verdict is very clear that with many loopholes, with many negatives and positives, and with many misses than, goals and things, classes where we did things well. So there's clear an indication that SADC can then help us to sharpen the process that is an inclusive conversation and dialogue on resolving this issue, so that even going forward, Zimbabwe does not continue this vicious circle of disputed elections. This vicious circle of contaminated political and electoral environment, it produces a disputed outcome. This is not the first time the election is disputed. It was disputed in 2018. It was disputed in 2018. It was disputed in 2008. It was disputed in 2005. It was disputed in 2000 and 2002. So this cycle has been continuing even under Mugabe and Tsvangirai. The fight around the elections has always been there. It's becoming almost an embarrassment within SADC that we continue to have the Zimbabwean election dispute as a permanent item every 5-year cycle. That must go. We must have a proper process that transitions the nation to a credible election.
Mr. Chamisa, I want to end off with asking you specifically, will you be lobbying the South African government to also help you put pressure on ZANU-PF?
Well, of course, we are going to knock at all the doors, and on all doors, including the South African one. In fact, we know that our appeal is to the South African government, and of course, the critical players in South Africa, the political parties, the civil society, to help us, help ourselves, so that we are able to have a stable political environment in Zimbabwe. Political stability is important for economic prosperity. So we need that political viability for us to be able to prosper Zimbabwe and to be less of a burden on South Africa. Zimbabwean citizens need to be back in Zimbabwe. But that is only a Christian function of South Africa helping us as we call for stability, normality, and integrity of processes in Zimbabwe.
That was opposition party leader, that's the Citizens Coalition for Change, Nelson Chamisa. We'll have to leave it there, but at least you got a sense of what he has to say about where things are in as far as the state of this election result is concerned.